It's going to be a hot podcast tonight. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's get this conversation started. Give a few moments for individuals to come in. If not, I'm just going to roll with it. You know how I operate over here. I'm going to be talking about a hot button issue and a hot button topic tonight. There's a lot going on in the nation. There's a lot going on in the world. But at the same time, we must remain focused. You cannot allow yourself to be swayed. Barnum and Bailey said this, quote, "There is a sucker born every minute," end quote. Tonight, I'm talking about the strategy of the MAGA Republicans in order to win the midterm elections. And that strategy is reparations for white men only based on racial discrimination. And I'm going to tell you why I picked this particular topic, and we're going to get down to it right now. And according to an article in USA Today, the headline reads, "White men urged to file discrimination claims in anti-DEI escalation." This article was written by Jessica Gwynn for USA Today. I'm going to talk about reparations, define what reparations is and what reparations is not. And I'm going to talk about how America has paid reparations in the past and why this particular strategy at this point in time. Because the Republicans don't have a message. They don't have a sound platform to present to the American public. And in an effort to win the midterm elections, they have to try to stir up controversy. They have to try to stir up trouble in the land to try to get black people out in the streets to protest in order for them to be killed. Because that would be a justification to enforce martial law. That would be a justification to talk about law and order. So what is the strategy? It's one that's been tried and true. When all else fails, do what Hitler did. What did Hitler do? He talked about the Aryan superior race of white men. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing and what's going down, it's a playbook right out of Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. Project 2025, the architectural design of Project 2025 is based upon Hitler's book. I've read it 3 times, through and through, letter for letter, word for word, line for line, chapter for chapter. Propaganda. So, as I said, the Republicans, they don't have a voice, they don't have a message, they don't have a strategy. And in order to get the white women to vote for the Republicans, offer reparations, a payment for what is supposed to be perceived racism against white men. Why white men? Why not white men and white women? Why not white men, white women, and white children? Because if you get the white men stirred up and start paying them reparations and tell them, well, you see, MAGA is for us. MAGA cares about whiteness only. MAGA doesn't care about anything else. Then the white women, they will vote en masse. And it is a ploy to try to stop black people from coming to the polls, to try to get them locked up, have them in prison during the midterm elections. And this is the strategy. Whether folk want to believe it or not, whether they want to accept it or not, this is what is going on. I'm going to define what reparations is right now. Let's define reparations. I don't like to use words and then don't define them. Simply put, from the Oxford languages, reparation is defined as, quote, the making amends for a wrong one has done. by paying money to otherwise helping those who have been wronged, to make amends, restitution, the compensation, and like the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed heavy reparations and restrictions on Germany. So I asked the question, when have white people ever been discriminated against in the history of the world? Go ahead, I'll wait. You know, America is an offspring of what used to be called England, Britain, now the United Kingdom. The Isle of the Americas, the inhabitants who came from England, they were the offspring, the seed from the British colony, under the pretense of coming over here to seek a new way of life based upon religious persecution. And what did they bring with them? Racism, bigotry, and prejudice. From the inception of America, white people have been privileged above all people. The Native Americans, who were the original inhabitants of the Americas, didn't have a voice. One time, many, many years ago, I sat down and I read the treaties that America made with the native, quote unquote, Indians or the Native Americans. So what's going on here? You have to create something that doesn't exist in order to justify what you want to do. Listen to this article, and then I'm going to go back. Quote from USA Today, the federal agency that fights workplace discrimination is calling on white men to come forward with bias allegations. Quote, are you a white male who has experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws, quote unquote. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Chair Andrea Lucas said on the X social media platform this week, quote, the EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all race and sex discrimination, including against white male employees and applicants, end quote. Notice it says nothing about black people. White males only. The only reason why they put in sex discrimination, because they didn't want to leave out the LGBTQ white men. I can decipher this very quickly and break it down, because they want the votes of the LGBTQ community to win the midterm elections, but they don't care anything about them. But they want their votes. They won't stand up and fight for them. They won't stand up and say, you know what, we're on your side, but as long as you vote for us and you're a white male, this is wonderful. And this is the problem. Because while people are out there hating one another and despising one another based upon the pigmentation of the skin, political mind games are being played, political chess is being played, political warfare is being waged against a group of people simply because they're black or Latino or Asian or of Mexican descent. While people are on Instagram fighting or arguing and doing things of foolish nature, while they're on TikTok playing stupid little stuff all day long, your civil rights are being taken away. Democracy is changing. The Constitution is being shredded. The Supreme Court is one-sided at this point in time. They don't want to talk about the economy because they're not going to win on the economy. They don't want to talk about their labor and the labor industry and jobs. They're not going to win on that. They don't want to talk about food prices and gasoline prices and inflation. But they do want to inflame white men and put the idea in their mind that they have been hated, despised, rejected. And because of that, we're going to pay you damages because you deserve reparations. That's what it is. It's reparations. By any other name, you can call it whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. And they think people are stupid and that we can't see through the placating that's going on here. These people want to maintain control of Congress and the Senate, and they'll do it by any means necessary. Behind closed doors, they're planning and plotting and scheming. And I know they're calling us the N-word behind closed doors, but it's going to slip out of your mouth one day in public, because what's in your heart will come out of your mouth, especially in the heat of the battle. Oh, it's going to come out. So, white men only. Let's read that again. Quote, are you a white male? This is how it starts off. Are you a white male who has experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? Notice it says white males. Didn't say anything about black males or black people, because DEI is the new code word. It's the new N-word. It's the dirty word. That's what DEI means in this day and age. You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws, quote, close quote. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Chair Andrea Lucas said on the X social media platform this week, quote, the EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating in caps all race and sex discrimination, including against white male employees and applicants. When have white people ever been discriminated against in the job market? If affirmative action has been eliminated, let's define affirmative action. People hear terms, they don't know what they mean, they never took the time to try to find out. This might not be a popular topic tonight, but I really don't care, because I don't like what's going on either. Let's define affirmative action. Affirmative action refers to policies and practices designed to increase opportunities for historically disadvantaged groups like minorities, meaning black people, women, people with disabilities in education, employment, and contracting to remedy past discrimination and promote diversity. So you're trying to tell me that white males fall under this category? No, they don't. They've never been discriminated against in the job market. Matter of fact, white men have been favored above any other people upon the face of the earth. White women were discriminated against. Sexism, chauvinism against women in the workforce for years, and it's still going on today. Because if a woman ascends to power and she's the CEO, a chairwoman of a major corporation, and she has the chutzpah and the intestinal fortitude to lead a corporation, she's called a variety of names. Whereas a white male, oh, he's just being a man. He's showing strength, vigor, power. He's standing up for society. And those blacks, those N's, they're always complaining about racism. We gave you a job when we brought you over here. I saw what was about maybe 400 years or more. We didn't pay you any money. You were raped, butchered, killed, murdered. Where do you think racial, ethnic miscegenation came from? From the slave masters having sex with the black women. Where do you think all these mulatto children came from in America and around the world? You know, on the continent of Africa, they didn't have any blonde-haired, blue-eyed black people with blue eyes and dark skin, until the so-called missionaries went over there who were supposed to be propagating the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they were too busy having sex with the women, dropping their seeds everywhere. Yes, I said it because it's true. You damn them to hell, but by the way, I'm going to rape you before I leave. Of course, you got to forgive me because the Bible says you have to forgive me. All this crap has been going on. So now, according to the article, the social media call to action is the latest escalation in the EEOC's effort to identify discrimination claims in line with the Trump administration's view that, quote, unlawful and woke diversity, equity, and inclusion practices permeating the American workplace are not balancing historic inequities, but creating new ones. Creating new ones for who? Black people being fired everywhere you turn around, especially black women. Black women are losing their jobs in unprecedented numbers by the hundreds of thousands. Welfare was designed to break up and destroy the infrastructure of the black family. We'll give you money to take care of your children, but you got to get the children's father out of the house. Then blame the father when he's forced to leave, because in order for the woman to get some meager crumbs, she has to not have a man in the home to raise her children. So when the children grow up and become juvenile delinquents headed to the prison industrial complex, then you say, well, where are the fathers? This stuff is real. I deal with real issues on this channel, whether people subscribe or not. It doesn't matter, because I'm going to deal with them anyway. And you can think this is a joke. This is a ploy. This is a strategy. This is a mind strategy to divert attention away from the hot button issues leading up to the midterm elections by stirring up the rage and anger and more hate that's already deeply seated in some of the minds of these people, to bring them out en masse to vote for the MAGA racist, bigoted Republicans. The Affordable Health Care Act has just been gutted, and people are not talking about it. The dumb Democrats have been duped again. I said the dumb Democrats have been duped again. You fell for the okie doke and you ended the governmental shutdown when all of the majority of America was on your side because you were standing your ground. What did you do? You caved in. And what did you get for it? Absolutely nothing. The same old double talk, the same old lies, the same old baiting, bait and switch. Diversity, equity, inclusion, I said, is the new N-word. That's what it is. Because they can't come right out and say it, because they know what would happen. They want black men in particular, they want them in the streets marching and protesting against white people, white men having reparations. Give it to them. We don't care. We're not going to break one law. We're not protesting over nothing. You want to give them reparations, give them reparations. Hell, give them a party. Give them a feast. Give them a banquet. Roll the red carpet out for them. Give them a gold medal. Put it in gold. Tell them that they're heroes. This is not the consensus of all, but this is the policy that's being put forth in the minds. Everything starts in the mind, ladies and gentlemen. I keep telling you in my short videos, I keep telling you in the long videos, everything starts in the mind. Deceit starts in the mind. Propaganda starts in the mind. Division starts in the mind. It is a concept. It is an idea. The Holocaust would have never happened had good people stood up against Hitler in Germany. I said it would have never happened, but good people sat back and did nothing. Everything that Hitler did, he did it in context with the law. That's how he got away with it. This week, Vice President J.D. Vance described DEI as a deliberate program of discrimination primarily against white men. Quote, close quote. White men have never been discriminated against. Never. Even after slavery was ended, they were freed from slavery. They had no money, they had no homes, they had no jobs, they left with nothing. Where do you think sharecropping came from? Well, we'll let you live back on the plantation. You can take care of it, and we'll pay you at the end of the year. And then they lied and cheated them out of their wages. So they're no longer slaves, but they're still living in the slave shacks on the plantations. There were no loans given to them. They didn't receive 40 acres and a mule. They weren't lifted up out of poverty. The Emancipation Proclamation was an act of compromise. On one occasion, Abraham Lincoln said that if he could have preserved the Union without freeing the slaves and going into the Civil War, he would have done it. If you don't believe me, read the book entitled Forced into Glory by Dr. LaRon H. Bennett Jr., published by Johnson Publishing Company. I've read it many times. Read the book entitled Before the Mayflower, published by Dr. LaRon H. Bennett Jr. These are historical facts. This is the reason why they hate the word woke. We're going to continue to stay woke. We're never going to be lulled to sleep. We're going to be informed, educated, wise, know our history. Like every other people know their history, we're going to know the true essence of our history, as ugly and horrible as it has been. And there were many decent, good white men and women who fought alongside the abolitionists to bring the hellish endured slavery to an end. Can never forget him. Harry Beecher Stowe. Black people didn't do it all by themselves. They had to have help. So reparations, that's the strategy. That is the strategy. To get white men fired up. Let them parade through the streets and don't nobody say nothing against them. The KKK, the Proud Boys, the White Boys, whatever they want to call themselves. Because half of the police officers are involved in it too. So they're not going to touch them. But if black people do the same thing, now it's against the law. We can't have this lawlessness operating here in America. We're going to put an end to this. Vance also promoted an online essay claiming DEI policies ruin the career prospects of some white male millennials. Responding to the article, Lucas tweeted, quote, "This is a story chock full of unlawful discrimination. That is a blatant lie. If white privileged people can't make it in America based on their own merit, how are you going to blame black people for their failure?" All around the world, because I'm doing a lot of studying. Over in the UK, racism is prevalent. Over in Canada, it's raising its ugly head. And Canada never had slavery. Sweden, Amsterdam, Holland, and all points in between. And that's the reason why black unity is a threat to people, because they don't want black people unified as one voice, as one mind. So try to keep them divided. Listen up, black people. I don't care where you are, where you come from, you're still black. If you're black, if you're dark skinned, if you're medium brown, if you're light skinned, if you're biracial, you're still black. Look at the former coach of Michigan University sitting in a jail cell because he couldn't behave himself as a married man. He had to have that white woman, didn't he? He knew it was against company policy to be involved with her. You married man with several children, and he's got a white mistress. That's why they keep saying the woman. They don't want to say that she's white. Well, she's white. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white woman. No charge. She didn't lose her job, but they fired him unceremoniously. Now he sits in a jail cell waiting to go to trial. All because he was obsessed. What do you think King Kong was about? Think King Kong was about a gorilla? Did you understand the contextual subliminal message in King Kong? You need to really go back and look at that movie very, very carefully. King Kong was the obsession, the obsessiveness of quote unquote, of black men being obsessive over white women. My mother told me about this as a boy growing up. Don't get involved with white women. She was from the deep, 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 deep South, Birmingham, Alabama. And she came through it all, through Jim Crow, segregation, sharecropping. She witnessed it all, lynching. And she told me the stories and got me and my brothers to understand, don't you ever get involved with a white woman. And what do these black athletes do? Yes, I'm saying it. I'm going on record and I'm saying it. They don't want the beautiful black woman. They want the white woman. Now, if you love somebody simply because it's love, that's one thing. But they purposefully go out of their way not to marry a black woman. Like she's not deserving of that wealth, of that glory, and that honor. Scottie Pippen just went through a horrible divorce after having married a white woman. Darn near cleaned him out. Wake up, black people. The tide has turned against us. You were warned, but you wouldn't listen. When the president tapped Lucas to lead the EEOC, she pledged to restore, quote, even-handed enforcement, that's the key word, of employment civil rights laws for all Americans. That's a lie. Including, quote, unlawful DEI-motivated race and sex discrimination, end quote. Well, what do you think white privilege is when you tell white men to come file a claim based upon racial discrimination? From who? From black people? Who runs the majority of the corporations in America? White people do. Who are the majority of the CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs and titans of industry and captains of industry? White males. So if they're being discriminated against, it's from their own people that they're being discriminated against and not from black people. The plausibility factor doesn't even make sense here. But the strategy behind it does, because I see what the strategy is. And the strategy is get into the minds of angry, bitter, hateful white men. Keep the hate going. Keep it going, keep it strong, so they can try to retain the Senate and the House next year. Oh, my brothers and sisters, how people are being duped to no end. Quote, Lucas says, I intend to dispel the notion that only the right sort of changing party is welcome through our doors. What do you mean charging party? What? See, all these little overtones here and throwing shade at black people like we don't know what's being said. We understand emphatically what is being implied and what the inference here is. Now that Lucas has a quorum, the minimum 3 out of 5 commissioners needed, she can move aggressively to enforce White House priorities, meaning white, white, white. The only black job that any black person has in the Trump administration is that lousy HUD job. That ain't nothing. Carson was the HUD secretary. Pierce was the HUD secretary under Reagan. It's not even a cabinet position. At least Richard Nixon, when he was the president of the United States, and he was a vitriolic racist, he tried to govern the country. Though white workers account for about 2/3 of the U.S. workforce, their discrimination claims make up only about 10% of race-based claims, according to data USA Today obtained in 2023 from the EEOC. This week, a money manager at Carl Icahns investment firm sued Bosch and Lomb Corporation, and his employer, alleging he was denied a board seat because he is white. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard? Ain't no black folk on the board at Bosch and Lomb Corporation. The latest in a series of lawsuits alleging reverse discrimination. Who is discriminating against them? Who? White people are more welcomed in the black community than black people are in the white community. We don't have all the hookup and hang-ups about accepting people and befriending people. This is a massive shift, with the Federal Civil Rights Office now explicitly naming the problem of anti-white racism and calling on individuals to take action. Christopher Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and a contributing editor of City Journal, tweeted, quote, close quote, to take up action. Action regarding what? They're not being discriminated against. It's a lie. It's an outright lie. Diversity advocates said the comments from the Trump administration deliberately distort the purpose of DEI. Quote, in my view, it's a set of practices aimed at removing bias to create a fair and level playing field so that people of all identities and backgrounds have equal opportunity at achieving success, said David Glasgow, executive director of Meltzer Center for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging to the NYU School of Law, and author of, quote, How Equality Wins, a New Vision for an Inclusive America, end quote. How about this, Black America? Stop applying for jobs in white corporations. Boycott them. Yeah, that's right. Boycott them. Every place where they don't like black people, all you got to do is boycott them. You don't have to argue with them. You don't have to cuss with them. You don't have to fuss with them. Just withhold your money. The GDP will go down. The gross national product will falter. The economy will tank when black people stop pumping money into it. We don't need these silly holidays. Ain't no such thing as Santa Claus coming in a black neighborhood. Never have, never will. It's a lie. That is a mythological lie. I used to tell my mother growing up, first of all, we don't even have a chimney. I'm an intelligent young man. You can't tell me go to bed because Santa Claus is coming. It's a lie. But they're still telling that same lie. They're still telling that same story over and over and over again. Still making cartoons, animated cartoons, over and over and over again. Go down to the department store and sit on Santa's lap and tell Santa what you want for Christmas. Ho, 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 and all that kind of foolishness. When you know it's a lie. The Easter Bunny is another lie. It's an American lie. And we have to stop falling for this foolishness. Stop taking our hard-earned money and just going where we're hated and despised. Selling us rotten goods, inferior products, cheap food that's not even healthy. You take red food dye and pour it over something to try to make it look like it's blood. There's nothing but food dye in the package. Midterm election strategy. Reparations for white men only. Quote, it would be truly wonderful to see people who are so passionate about the value of equality when it comes to white men demonstrating the same passion when it comes to eradicating inequalities affecting people of color, women, LGBTQ plus individuals, and marginalized groups in society. Close quote, he wrote in the email. That's not going to happen. There's no place for these policies in the GOP MAGA-led Republican Party. They hate black people. They hate us, and we know it. You don't have to love us, and we don't care. We know y'all hate us. I don't want to hear you talking about Jesus Christ and the Bible and none of that garbage telling us you Christians. We ain't believing that foolishness. In America, especially doing segregation, all that kind of stuff, you had a white cemetery and a black cemetery. Who does Sam Hill is going to, what is God going to have a resurrection for white folk first and for black people second? The stupidity. Even in death, they want racism to exist. So they hate LGBTQ plus individuals. They hate them, except for rich white ones. Okay, they're acceptable because they're rich and they're powerful and they can fight back. Shouldn't hate anybody based upon who they are or what they are. That's the problem with this nation now. That's why the racists feel emboldened. And they think they can say anything and do anything around the country without any punitive actions whatsoever. Because they think we have to sit back and take it. Well, we're not going back. After the killing of George Floyd in 2020 prompted widespread protests, business people pledged to make their workforce and their leadership better reflect the communities they serve. We could care less. That's not what black folk wanted. I don't care what George Floyd was. He didn't deserve to die like that. This is the dude right here that's responsible for all this chaos that's going on in this country. One of the prime architectural designers of Project 2025. And the Republicans are not going to be in power forever. The backlash to the Black Lives Matter movement was swift as advocacy organizations claimed white workers were being denied opportunities so employers could hire and promote more women and people of color to achieve diversity goals. Well, why can't people just be hired on their merit? I don't need nobody to give me a job because I'm black. I'm good at what I do. I said, I am good at what I do. I've been a communicator since I was a child. I didn't learn communication skills when I became grown. I was articulate and intelligent speaking when I was a young boy growing up in the hardcore streets of the hood in Philadelphia. You can't stop an individual from learning just because of their environmental surroundings. They couldn't stop me from learning. They couldn't stop my mind from growing and expanding. Many of you all, your problem is you use your race as a crutch, as an excuse, as a justification to do wrong and to commit crimes and to violate laws. That is wrong. Yes, talking about people, that is wrong. Just because we grew up in the hood and didn't have a lot of opportunities and a whole lot of money, it doesn't give us the right to break the law, because you know you're going to be the recipients of the harshest sentencing when everything is said and done. Wake up, black people. The prison industrial complex is real. They're building more and bigger prisons every single day because of privatization. And they're not building them for white people. It is profitable. Vendors make money. The system makes money. The shareholders make money. The stockholders make money. The manufacturers, the corporations make money. The architects make money. The construction companies make money. CEOs are paid handsome fees to be glorified babysitters, to take care of their families. That's why they build them in rural areas to stimulate and infuse the economy. They don't build them in the city. They build them in small rural towns. America First Legal co-founded by senior White House advisor Stephen Miller, peppered top companies with dozens of reverse discrimination complaints and posted on social media seeking more white people to file legal claims. What did I tell you from the onset? This is a strategy. This dude right here is the chief culprit behind it all. And if you don't believe that the policies that people are upset about are part of Project 2025, then you might as well go ahead and believe in fairy tales. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump campaigned against DEI for creating, quote, anti-white feeling, end quote, and on his first day back in the White House, moved to wipe out such initiatives, including purging DEI from the federal government and the military, threatening to strip billions of dollars in federal funding and grants from universities, and pressuring major corporations to roll back programs or risk losing federal contracts. That's the only thing white folk fear, losing money. That's the only thing they got to leverage. How do you think Elon Musk became a trillionaire? Governmental contracts. He ain't that brilliant. Governmental contracts. Did you all think because he stepped down from Doge that he still wasn't a part of the inner circle? Yes, he is. He's still a part of the inner circle. He's still a part of the clan. He's still in cahoots. He's still spewing the vitriol that he always has. The day he bought Twitter, I shut my account down. I would never go over to that X platform. Never. The broad side rippled across corporate America as companies accelerated efforts to scale back or scrap DEI programs that could put them in the president's crosshairs. Okay, scale them back, eliminate them, black folk boycott them. That's it. You don't have to argue with these bigots, these CEOs. You don't have to argue with them. Boycott their companies and stick to it. Boycott them and tell them we don't care and don't ever come back. That's how you break them. If millions of black people would stick together and boycott these white racist corporations that are supportive of all these policies, they change their policies overnight. Because they will go bankrupt. And they don't have enough governmental contracts to help them stay in business. The rollbacks had a direct impact on the careers of black Americans and the diversity of executive suites inside the largest companies. According to the article, quote, I have to say it's a bit hard for me to look at the state of the nation. White households with 9 to 10 times the wealth of black households, white men comprising 74% of Fortune 50 CEOs, white people being 90% of law firm equity partners, Congress being 72% male and 74% white, and think that white men are at a systemic disadvantage in our society, Glasgow said, quote, close quote. And you're going to try to tell me that white men are being discriminated against? I'll never believe that lie. Never. Now, let's look at all the you know what? I might have to make that a separate video. I'm trying to get it all in this one video. Let me see if I can find it. Let's find out who our government has paid reparations to. All right, here we go. According to the New York Bar Association, the United States has paid reparations for a host of issues. Why not slavery? Because they feel as though that slavery is justified. And then it was justified. I'm going to talk about this in a separate video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Stay woke, never surrender, never quit.